You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the capitalist corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the capitalist corner.
What's up, folks? Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. Happy Wednesday to you. I am your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair of the American Capitalist Party, Michael Liebowitz, who is the host of his own show, The Rational Egoists. That is an ethics we all need to get behind, and we need to make popular again. Michael, what's going on with the show? You had an interview with James Valiant. Is that coming up? No.
I have one coming up.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing an interview with him. Subby says, hello, everyone, skirt here, because, I called him a skirt yesterday. Well, I mean,
you never defined what that meant to the person who asked what a skirt was.
Well, I think that we got to move on. I'm interviewing James tomorrow. We're going to do the Rothbard interview. That should be out Friday. And it should be great. And then I got a bunch of stuff that looks like it's going to be coming up, but I have nothing official, so I don't want to talk about it, but it looks very good. I could always rope Mark into doing an interview with me if I need to. I got a few guys. Oh, Andy Bernstein I got coming up. I got a few go-tos.
You guys fight? Do you and Andy fight like you and me do?
No. Andy, no.
Okay.
I think I can beat Andy. If it came to fisticuffs, I think I can beat Andy.
I don't know, man. The guy's
what?
He's from Gangsterland, Queens, right? Or Brooklyn or something.
Dude, come on.
Tough guy. Bed-Stuy. I mean,
come on. No way.
Look, I have to say before we go on, folks, that we are not affiliated with the American Capitalist Party.
And we're not going to fight Andy Bernstein.
We're not going to. There's going to be no fight between Andy Bernstein and Michael Liebowitz. But if you want to know what the policies of the American Capitalist Party are, go to americancapitalistparty.org. Check it out, donate, become a member of the American Capitalist Party so we can grow this thing. We're already expanding out into Georgia and hope to get some more state chapters very soon. Michael, you sent me a very interesting article. I think Zoran Mamdani is sort of the news phenomenon for the whole nation, because we're all sort of sitting on pins and needles seeing where this mayoral election for New York City is going to go. And there's a 90% chance that it's going to go to him. He's got the Democratic Socialists of America behind him. Most of his funding, 78% of it, came from outside of New York City. But he's established a pretty huge constituency out there. They did a rally the other day with 13,000 people there, and they were screaming, "Tax the rich." Am I supposed to interrupt my flow with this?
No. Don't ever interrupt your flow because of what I post. Okay. I post it for the audience. If I want you to address it, I'll tell you.
It's distracting though, just so you know. So he's the big news story today, because most people who still hold some version of Americanism in their hearts are stunned by the fact that a avowed communist who wants to seize the means of production, folks.
He's not an avowed communist.
Okay, avowed socialist wants to seize the means. Yes, he doesn't believe it, and maybe he doesn't believe in no private property.
No, I have no problem with calling him a communist, but when you say avowed communist, you're attributing that he's claiming it, which he's not.
Thank you for your linguistic position.
No, we need accuracy. What do you mean linguistic? Well, we need accuracy.
He is an avowed socialist, and he is now the front runner in the mayoral race for promising things that are impossible to fulfill. He wants rent freezes on all the controlled housing. He claims, Mike, in total primacy of consciousness mode, that because he wishes it, he doesn't say this. This is my interpretation. Because he wishes for new housing, it will come, and so he will use every resource at his disposal, which means stealing things from the rich, according to him, in order to achieve that end. Of course, the rich will do nothing about it. The richest 10% that support 2/3 of the resources in New York City will not leave. They're going to allow themselves to be abused. That may be the case because the article that you posted here does, in some cases, say the richest people do vote against themselves. It never quite says why. It skirts around the issue and touches on morality, which it really should. But the article itself, folks, talks about why is socialism.
It says why, Mark.
No. It sort of does. You could have said it in one sentence and avoided a 3,000 word article. You could say exactly why people are finding Mamdani's message resonating with them, why socialism continues to go despite how failed it's been everywhere it's been tried. Why? I thought we dealt with it in a much better, more succinct way yesterday, Michael.
Okay, so one thing that really caught me in this is that as recently as 2021, Mamdani said he is for the public ownership of the means of production, seizing the ownership of the means of production. So he's a socialist. You could throw all the Democrat in front of it, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But we're going to get to, when we get to the other stuff about what's happening on the right, and then you juxtapose it with what's happening on the left, this is scary stuff. These are like you said, primacy of consciousness, folks. They're tyrannical, and it's all just about my team, right? So he's likely going to win as mayor. The AOCs of the world are ascendant within the Democratic Party. That's where all the energy is. But the point about why this was interesting to me, because it's a psychology thing. Maybe we can address it sometime on our other show, Self-Made Soul, the intersection between psychology and philosophy, which we do for Patreon on Saturdays. But the point is, it reminds me of, if you've ever read studies. So during the Olympics, the person that comes in bronze, or any competition, you have 3, gold, silver, bronze. The person who wins silver is actually more upset than the person who wins bronze, because the person who wins silver is comparing himself to the next up person and saying, I could have, I should have won, or I could have won. So that person's pissed, while the bronze person's just happy. This is similar, although not exact. So what happens is, in life, people generally don't look at the homeless and say, wow, I'm so happy that I'm better off than them. They look at people who are doing better and they say, oh my God, why can't I be that good? So when you have the poorest of the poor, they're not all that bent out of shape. Yeah, they're not that bent out of shape. The ones who are bent out of shape are the middle class. The middle class are looking directly to the rich in saying they're better off. Why don't I have their cars? Why don't I have their houses? That's the theory anyway. I mean, that's what they
I disagree with I disagree with it, but go ahead.
Well, you can disagree, but the point is, you said they didn't give a reason, but they did.
No, I thought they skirted around the reason, and when they did touch on
No, that was the reason they gave. You might disagree.
When they skirted around, when they touched on the reason, it was erroneous to me.
So you disagree that people tend to compare themselves up rather than down?
I disagree that that's the reason why socialism is popular amongst the wealthier class and the educated class.
What it said, actually, is that it's popular amongst the middle class, is what the article said. The upper middle class.
Upper middle class. Well, the upper class.
Not the upper class. It's the upper middle class. And that was the reason they gave.
And educated classes. I think it's because of altruism. I think they feel guilty for where they are in life. And they understand that acquiring a certain amount of material wealth is selfish. That's bad, as according to altruist ethics. And so they endorse a morality that they feel actually gels more with their unconscious acceptance of the altruistic ethics. So that's how you get the spectacle of a guy like Jon Stewart interviewing Mamdani and just doing this rave interview with this guy. He's a super wealthy entertainer. He's a comedian who does political commentary. This guy was just raving over him. Well, he doesn't live socialist values, but he must hold them because he holds altruist values and probably sees this guy as a moral ideal, because Mamdani's been consistent his entire political life, and then some. And that's why the Democratic Party is searching for its moral compass, and its moral compass is in socialism. Plain and simple. That's the consistent. That's altruism in its consistent application in the political world.
Okay, Two things. One, I like numbers asked the question, does everyone have the same reason for supporting socialism? And the answer is no. But when you're talking about group dynamics, we can't go through each person. We're talking about why is the support ascendant, and then it's specifically ascendant against the middle and upper middle class. So you have to ask why it's so ascendant there. It doesn't mean there's no one in the lower class or upper class that supports it. And I agree with you, Mark. I think altruism as the dominant ethic in the country and the culture does lend itself to this. But I'm always weary of when something just fits too perfectly, when my own personal beliefs and theories explain everything. Right. So yes, altruism's a problem, but I don't like to look at every dynamic and say, aha, altruism. So the problem with what you said is if it's wealthy having guilt, that wouldn't explain why the upper classes were supporting Cuomo, which is what the article said. The specific dynamic they were talking about in this article is why does the upper middle class support him? And that's where they got into the comparison dynamic. So the altruism wouldn't explain why the lower and upper classes are both supported Cuomo. I don't know if they still are. But I thought it was interesting. But I do think that altruism drives much of this. So I don't want to take too much issue with what you said. I think that's true. I think if somebody didn't hold to altruism, they wouldn't be socialists to begin with.
Yeah, and I just look at Hollywood, filled with very, very wealthy people. I think they feel their job is a little too easy. They feel a little bit guilty for making the money they make, for doing what they do, for playing like 6-year-old kids.
Is your job easy?
No, it's not easy.
I don't look at it as easy at all.
I think they feel that way. I think
that's crazy.
Guilty. I think they feel guilty because it's not a labor-intensive job. They don't necessarily feel the sweat and the grit, and like they've necessarily sacrificed enough to make the amount of money they make, or they don't feel their position in life or in culture is really as serious as to demand the kinds of salaries that they demand, and they feel guilty about it, and that's why they do this kind of selfless philanthropy on the side to make up for their guilt. And I see most of the Silicon Valley guys, the richest guys on the planet, literally skewing left all the time. They're starting to change a little bit now because I think they have a brain, and they're beginning to realize that sacrificial ethics means that they are on the altar to be sacrificed, not other people. And that the dynamic in this country is turning towards that. When you have one political side saying billionaires shouldn't exist, and and use terms like eat the rich. I mean, these people are, it's a seriously violent intimation that, we're going to take what you have, what you've earned, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I would start changing my opinions if I saw that kind of messaging as well. But I think they're driven by altruism too. And I agree with you that, one theory fitting everything, that's socialistic. I mean, when I listen to socialists talk about dynamics in society, politics, and the way people are, I guess, determined by economics, I think they've found a perfect religion that seems to have the answer to everything, which I tend to fall in your camp. But I thought we answered this question far better than this article did, Michael, when we said that both sides look at the world as a zero-sum game. Both sides are animated by altruism. And when you look at the zero-sum game as putting you in this false dichotomy of either sacrificing other people to yourself or sacrificing yourself to others, you see the virtue in sacrificing yourself to others. And that's what makes a guy like Mamdani ascendant. He's simply riding the wave of altruism. The moral guilt it imposes on people, the moral duties it imposes on people. He plays on that, and now it's propelled him into this office. Every time I look at this guy with his big, huge, sunny smile, I'm reminded of a quote from Hamlet, when he's talking about Claudius. He says, "Meet it as I set it down, that a man may smile and be a villain."
Yeah. I just want to piggyback on something you said, Mark, is you said you think that we covered this specific story better than the article. Just to be clear, any topic that you and I discuss on this show, we're covering better than anybody.
I hope you're right about that. I'm going to agree with you just because. Champagne socialists have the financial leeway to support sacrifice. Indeed. They have the resources to also move away from the areas where that sacrifice is happening. Unfortunately, the people in the middle class who are trying to reach upward, up the ladder of economic status, don't necessarily have the resources to not be victims. It's just a matter of time before they are sacrificed. Agreed. Like I said, they will be on the altar too. Some of them are starting to get the notion, though, that it won't be long before they're on the altar and have their hearts removed, and so they better start changing their political affiliation. And I say to those people, should they happen upon this channel, that it is the American Capitalist Party that you should be turning to, not to Trumpism, not to the National Socialism that is really the nationalistic conservative movement at this point. Michael, can you post that article? Because I think it's important for people to see why we in the Capitalist Party have.
Oh, you know what I forgot to do again? I forgot to send them to Persephone. I'm such a putz.
I'm glad you said it, and I didn't have to say it out loud.
You know what happened? I started sending Mark articles. No joke. For me, it was like one in the morning. I woke up, I couldn't sleep, and I got on X, and I started getting aggravated, and I just started firing things off.
Let me just tell you.
Pew, pew, pew,
Yes,
pew.
that's exactly what I'm hearing at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but why don't you turn it off? You know I'm going to do that. That doesn't make sense.
I put silent on it. I silence notifications, and I must be doing something wrong. So I hate to. Well, I've already revealed that I'm boomer technology wise. But yeah, I hear that dinging all the time. And now I let my cat, by the way, I let my cat into my room now all the time. So he sleeps with me, and the fucker is sleeping all day long. Okay. He sleeps all day long to the point where I'm thinking, is this guy sick? Because I guess I've been so focused on Frankie for years and years and years. You know, I just noticed when Cody would come up to me and play with me and stuff. Well, he sleeps the whole fucking day, and he decides to come to life at 3 o'clock every morning.
Yeah, that's what cats do.
Yeah, and how does he come to life? He jumps on my face and paws my face. But it's like he grabs my chin, and then the nails come out, and he like kneads my chin with his nails. And when I cover my face with the duvet or whatever the fuck you call it, the covers. When I cover my face with the sheets.
No.
It's called a duvet.
What the hell is a duvet?
I thought that was the thing you put the cover, the comforter.
Yeah. Say it for us guys who are on the lower end of the economic stratum, so we understand. We don't run around. I can tell you this.
Comforter, whatever the comforter blanket is, he digs at the comforter blanket because it's like he has to see my face. Then he sees my face and he meows right into it.
I love cats.
This cute little purry meow, and then he just goes into my face like this. So I'm up at 3 o'clock every morning with that guy. Anyway, you sent me a great tweet from Vance. Is it Gin? Do you know this guy? Is it Gin or Gin?
Yeah, I've interviewed him. He interviewed me. I was just on his podcast recently, and I sent you the episode so you can watch it.
Don't
go.
No
go.
I'm in the middle of mourning. I can't do anything except research my part.
And he's going to be coming on here.
Okay, good. Because what he says here is amazing. Yeah, folks, all I can do is I'm doing like 5 or 4 things, and that's all I can do. I'm mourning Frankie. I go to jiu-jitsu. I train, and I research for my part and work on that. And everything else is just beyond me. And I hate to say that, but it's true. I feel like I'm lucky I get up in the morning for what I feel with Frankie. So anyway, from Vance, he says this: property ownership is the cornerstone of a free society. It reflects the natural right of individuals to control what they create, earn, or voluntarily exchange with others. From that right flows responsibility, independence, and the ability to build a legacy. Yet today, homeowners must pay the government every year simply to keep what they already own. Property taxes are not a reasonable price. For local services. They are an outdated, overly coercive, and economically destructive way to fund the government. Amen. They should end. Amen. Across Texas, Florida, Wyoming, Iowa, and Montana, places that my wife and I considered moving, by the way, more people are realizing that property taxes, once accepted as a necessary evil, are neither necessary nor moral, especially when government spending is not properly restrained. The principle is simple. Nothing is free, but ownership should be secure once it is earned. Amen. That is the cornerstone of the American Capitalist Party, said in 3 paragraphs of a tweet right there. I mean, Ayn Rand said it even better. Property rights are the implementation of individual rights. They're literally, without property rights, there are no rights for human beings. So when a guy like Mamdani says he wants to socialize the means of production, in other words, deprivatize that, take that away from individual moral agency, he's literally saying he wants to collectivize your means of living. He wants to take your life out of your hands and give it to someone like him who thinks he can manage it better. That's despicable. That's evil. Michael, it's evil. And I just got my property tax in the mail today, not today, but last week. And I'm telling you, what I have to pay for the property we have here in California is ridiculous. And if I had this house completely paid off, I would lose it if I didn't pay this property tax every year. This ridiculous stipend that I have to put out every 6 months. I could use that $13,000 for anything else, and it would enrich my life or somebody else's life far more than it going to Sacramento. What say you about this? This is a great tweet.
I thought it was great, and I actually read the article that came with the tweet. And I think he's spot on, but I think that there's people that are on our side that would have a problem with it because he talks about ways to better fund the government. And there's a lot of people out there who would talk about, well, that not better shouldn't be our goal to better fund the government. I'm actually in the camp, though, Mark, that says we need a way to get from here to here, right? We can't just abolish all taxes and all government services overnight. It doesn't work that way. So, so I'm actually okay with the different methods of taxation, and I don't want to get into it now. It's an awful lot, and I'm not even sure I fully understood it, but he makes a lot of recommendations. And personally, I think that's the way to go. We need plans to get from where we are to where we want to go. Just bitching about how bad the government is, like, a lot of libertarians do, I just don't think that that's going to work out.
I think that's probably the last thing that we need to sort out is that tax situation. What we need to start doing is cutting the government. Unfortunately, the government has made that extremely difficult to do. And Michael, in some way, this is sometimes don't hate me for what I'm about to say because it's going to sound really crazy on its face. There are times when I feel like I get Trump's frustration because he would have to go through a legislature that has no intention of cutting spending at all in order to lawfully cut spending to many of these programs. He would have to go through legislature in order to, I think, to take care of some of these legally guaranteed jobs. He can't just fire people because some of these jobs are statutorily held, which seems like a conflict of fiduciary interest to me, but this is the case. To get rid of the public sector unions or any of the stuff that I think would really be of value to the American people, to shrink this huge parasite in Washington, he has to go through a legislature, which would likely mean either legislation wouldn't happen, or it would be an extremely slow process and might not be achieved in his administration. Unfortunately, he's doing all the wrong things with his executive orders, and gratefully, none of those will stick. But if he had the right premises, we could use a Javier Milei to get in there and push, for legislation, and I think we'd be better off. But I think the cuts have to happen first before we deal with the taxes. The taxes have to be sort of the last thing that we deal with. Richard, how do you say this guy's name? Hanania?
I just say Hanania, but I have no. That's just I got yelled at today for saying George Reisman rather than Reisman, but I'm not listening to. I was in prison reading. So
you also said the primacy of conscience instead of primacy of conscience.
I think it is primacy.
Primacy.
It might be primacy. I don't know. What the hell do I know? When did I say that? Just today?
You say laboratory instead of laboratory?
You could. What would be wrong with that? You pricks out west stole the English language. Persephone's actually pronouncing it right.
Primacy. It's the primacy.
And what about all your friends that are out at Hogwarts? You forgot to mention them too.
Hey, somebody said something here. Oh, Subby just outed you, Mike.
What?
He said you had a duvet cover.
Yeah, if I had it, it's because I got out of prison and that's what he provided me with.
Well,
it's not because I went out and said, "Hey, give me a duvet." I promise you that.
You have it.
I can guarantee you there will never be a day of my life where I go to a store and I'm like, "Hey, can you show me the duvet, please?"
Never
Never.
say never. Never say
Ever.
never.
I'm not getting any masks or any of that stuff that you get done to your face. None
I
of
haven't
that stuff.
gotten, I haven't gotten that stuff in a long time, and I was
Oh
just
my
thinking about
God.
I have to go get a facial. I used to get one every month, and folks, if I'm looking like that character from Simpsons, what's his name?
Ned Flanders.
If I'm looking like Ned Flanders, it's because I haven't had a facial in over a year. Look, Richard Hanania tweeted this, and I found this telling, Michael, and I'm sort of generalizing here, but he said, absolutely surreal interview with Karine Jean-Pierre. For those of you who don't remember Karine Jean-Pierre, who's still trying to stay relevant right now, she was the press secretary under Biden, probably the worst press secretary I've ever seen in my lifetime. The woman seems unable to follow basic arguments, understand questions, or even see how one statement connects to the next. Just a mind full of identity-based platitudes. What an embarrassment for the Democratic Party. I would say, Michael, she's representative.
It's primacy. It's definitely primacy. Go ahead.
I would say she's representative of what I find in the culture at large today. That a lot of young folks who have gone to college, like Karine Jean-Pierre probably has, can't follow basic arguments, understand questions, or even see where statements connect or concepts connect with each other. I think this is a nationwide epistemological problem. Do you agree with me?
In general, yes, I do. I think that I thought naively that this was a dynamic that mostly only took place in prison, because I figured, okay, these guys, they're in prison. They're not the brightest, known for their low IQs, that sort of thing. So when I would get discussions and they couldn't follow logical discussions, didn't understand the implications, would contradict themselves, I thought that was something in prison. Lo and behold, this is very common out here. And it's very disturbing because I couldn't wait to get away from that. And I mean, on social media, it's just like it closes in on you and gets you.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where that statement comes from for me. My experience in social media, how people cannot connect the dots. I feel like when they're listening to Mamdani, they cannot connect the dots. They cannot see that his desires for things are different from the realities.
You have to start saying Mamdani.
Mamdani.
Yeah.
Yeah, I screw that up.
No, I know I'm here, but I'm trying to get you. Like you got me right with primacy. It's primacy. You got to say things correctly.
Primacy. It's primacy, not primacy. I just want you to know. Just like
James Valiant. James Valiant is here to roast us. I like this when the objectivist intellectuals step in with the hard-hitting observations. Jim says there must be a middle ground between no duvets ever and dudes getting regular facials.
I don't think there is yeah, there must be. I have to say there must be. I have to agree with James Valiant because he's James Valiant.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You do them all. So just go. Let's just get to the next story. And Persephone, I emailed you the stories. And what'd you do?
So she's going to post those at some point, folks. You sent me something from the AP about the Gaza ceasefire tested as Israel and Hamas exchange fire and blame. Yeah, again, Hamas has fired on IDF troops, and Israel is retaliating for that. But the ceasefire has been violated from the beginning, folks. Hamas was supposed to return living and dead hostages. They had exact numbers for both. They returned the living hostages. They've been holding on to the dead hostages. And that is a violation of the ceasefire agreement. Now, I know, and everybody in the diplomatic world should know, that this is never going to get to the second phase, Michael. This is never going to get to the second phase because Hamas is never going to give up power.
No, of course not. I mean, it seems so obvious. Look, I'm not a foreign policy. My specialties in these discussions, to be honest, philosophy, and I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm just saying I have a lot more education in philosophy, economics, law, psychology. Foreign policy is not like my strong suit, but it just seems so abundantly clear that Hamas is not going to disarm. Like, it's just like, why does somebody actually think that could be happening?
Well, Michael, again, we have a leader and an administration, and this seems to be more than just this administration and this particular leader that operate on the primacy of consciousness mode. So if they feel it, it must be so. Their feelings override reality. Now, all the facts on the ground tell us that Hamas is never going to give up power. Not willingly. They're going to.
I feel like you were looking for a chance to weave in primacy of consciousness just so you could throw it in my face. That's what I think just happened. Like that didn't fit. You didn't have to say that.
I almost said primacy. I almost said primacy just to appease you, but I didn't. So the facts on the ground tell you that Hamas is never giving up power because Hamas has said it straight out. They've never acted in good faith in any deal with the Israeli government from the beginning. Why would they start now? They're a criminal institution. They are about lies and the acquisition of power. The only way you can deal with these people is to eliminate them. Now, Trump is talking big. He's saying, get back to the ceasefire or get terminated. Again, he's talking tough and he never backs it up. By the way, Persephone says she needs at least a few minutes. I'm not magic. I disagree, Persephone. You are magic. But go ahead, Michael. What do you say about that? And look, you don't have foreign policy positions necessarily, but you have a set of moral principles that would be applied consistently to foreign policy, and therefore probably have a better foreign policy than the people in the establishment now.
I thought you were going to say than the people in the chat, and you were just going to piss everybody off. But no, I mean there is common sense. It seems that when you're dealing with lying murderers, touting your deal making ability to make deals with such lying murderers is a bit silly. And how many times has he now said this, or else, and not done it? So I've said this before on the show. I did not want Obama to bomb Syria. But once Obama says there's a red line, if they use these weapons, I'm going to hit them, and then doesn't, well, now your credibility is gone. Just shut up at the outset, right? Don't make the threat. But once you make the threat and don't follow through, you just look stupid. And you look feckless and nobody cares what you have to say. See how I used feckless? That's a good word. Feckless. Feckless codswallop.
You don't know what a duvet is, but you know what feckless means.
Why would I know what a duvet is? I've come across feckless people. I'm not shopping for a duvet.
Like Numbers says, isn't it possible that Israel expected this to fail, which is why they got the hostages back as phase one? Yes, that's very interesting. I actually never considered that. But
I don't it's true.
As bad and as complex a character as Netanyahu is, he can play 4D chess in a way that Trump really can't. And so making this the phase one of the agreement, knowing that they're going to have to go in there and annihilate Hamas anyway, by getting those live hostages back, you're right. That does seem to be an interesting strategic move on the part of Netanyahu. I don't think Trump.
Okay. I don't disagree that might be Israel's plan. A lot of people have said that, like to come back. Yeah, but Trump got the hostages back. Okay. I don't know what else are that Subby tells me that I use, but I do know he tried to get me use that thing in the shower. What the hell is that thing on the wand?
What?
The fluffy thing in the shower to clean yourself with. What is it?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a fluffy thing that cleans to clean.
A loofah. That's what a loofah. Yeah, loofah.
Oh, you have a loofah? You have a loofah?
No, not me. A loofah. No way, sir. But anyways, okay, they got 20 hostages back, and at what expense? How many did they release? How many killers? How many fighters?
2,250 convicted for life.
Yeah. So, okay, you got 20. And look, I'm happy. I want those 20 people to come back, but it's the same thing. There's a reason that we don't negotiate with terrorists, or at least we're not supposed to, but they do anyways, as Reagan showed. But the reason is because then it encourages it. So, yes. Yeah, you've got your 20 people back, and now there's 2,000 fighters back on the other side.
Who are fanatical. Who are
and who might now if one of those ends up killing 30 Israelis, how do you do that cost-benefit analysis?
Yeah, you can't. Gary Menard says a good understanding of human nature is more valuable than a degree in foreign policy. Look, to me, that's what makes Washington one of the greatest presidents of all time. He was shrewd, understood human nature, understood what Republican values were, And that's why he rose above some of the intellectual giants of the age to become one of the greatest men of his age, even though he didn't have the education. He understood human nature. So I have to agree with you, Gary, there. And I think objectivist principles are help us have some key insights into human nature. You sent me some stuff about Dave Smith. I gotta hit this stuff on Dave Smith, because
Hit it up.
Dave Smith, for anybody who doesn't know, has become a famous libertarian political commentator. He's made his bones and his entire reputation by being anti-Israel. And he claims not to be pro-Hamas, but of course, in this case, that's what it amounts to. You can't really walk that fence without coming down on the side of Hamas if you're anti-Israel.
Can you hold on 1 second? Because I had to look this up. So Chuck Unmoney says this in the chat. Now, I've heard this over and over again. I heard it from the aforementioned Dave Smith, I think is the first person I heard it from. He says, the Syria example, which has been used several times, doesn't seem good. The use of chemical weapons, last I knew, was not completely confirmed, and that may have been why there was no action. But every single time I look it up after I hear the claim, AI overview. Yes, it has been confirmed by multiple international investigations that the Syrian government used chemical weapons after President Barack Obama said that would cross a red line. And now, and there's an abundance of articles here. Syria's chemical weapons list, Obama's blurry red line, it's all over the place. So Chuck on Money, I don't know what the source is. I don't know what your source is. I don't know what Dave Smith's source is. But every time I look into it, every answer I get is that they used chemical weapons.
Dave Smith's sources are the new historians who are have the best of them. Benny Morris came out and said that he was biased, and he was trying to confirm his political bias through his history. And that's what the new historians of Israel basically do. They confirm their own biases. And also Scott Horton, who is a ridiculous human being in every way, and immoral as fuck, I want to say. Just a despicable man.
So do you see, we got the story, Persephone posted it.
Fantastic. So one of the biggest issues facing America is that we have started to view politics as entertainment instead of serious business. That's why so many entertainers find a foothold for their grift in politics. And this certainly applies to David, who did not become famous as a comedian, which he claims to be. And I only know he's a comedian because he's friends with Joe Rogan, and he's been on Joe's show, but he's never said anything funny. I've never seen his stand-up act, but I've never seen him be funny. So, but he made his bones coming out against Israel and being a commentator against Israel. And he has debated some of the best people in the world on this issue. And Michael, his most recent debate, I thought he got his head absolutely handed to him.
I thought that Konstantin Kisin handled him pretty well, and I thought Coleman Hughes did as well.
Coleman Hughes, though, got into you see, when he was talking to me, I was just saying, even if these are facts, they're irrelevant. To me, they were just irrelevant. But Coleman Hughes called him out on the nature of the facts themselves, which I thought was an important thing to do. Yes. Which was you're cherry picking, let's say, a report from the State Department out of 60 reports generated a day, and claiming that this particular one somehow is more important than the 60 reports that are generated per day out of that very same office that may even say contradictory things. Yeah. So I mean, Dave has been shown for cherry picking data anyway and cherry picking narratives, but Coleman Hughes, I think, did it clearer even than Douglas Murray did it, clearer even than Konstantin did it.
Yeah, I thought Douglas Murray did a very poor job.
Only because he started to come. First of all, look, you can't say, "Have you been there?" You can't say that in an English accent and not expect for the rest of the audience out there to think you are condescending.
You've never been?
You've never been there. Yeah. That's what Joe Rogan hit on later on when he's like, "You've never been there." They started making fun of him.
He gave them the opportunity. But here's the thing. So Tucker Carlson had Nick Fuentes on, right? Just so everybody understands, Tucker Carlson's a guy who believes that demons attack him in his sleep, that demons are roving around the country and interfering in our lives. And Nick Fuentes is an avowed anti-Semite. Tucker, of course, he's just asking questions. They all happen to be, anti-Semitic stuff and anti-Israel and whatnot. So Tucker has Fuentes on the show for a discussion. There's all this whole thing going on with these people, the unite the right, and there's people on the right that are very admirably fighting against it, saying I'm not uniting with this garbage. But Dave Smith says the Tucker Fuentes episode was great. The people clutching their pearls about it are ridiculous. These types of conversations are the only positive way forward. In what fucking world, Dave, are a conversation between a lunatic grifter and an anti-Semite the way forward for anyone? The way forward is to denounce these fools for the irrational grifting jerks that they are. Yes. That's the way forward. I understand, though, Dave, that doesn't get you on Tucker. That doesn't get you on Candace. And that won't get you on with Piers Morgan. So it's much better to promote these people.
Ooh, that's an interesting. I mean, that makes Dave a very cynical character. I mean that take on his personality that he's just doing it to continue a grip.
It's either that or he's a buffoon. So I don't know which it is. Now, look, I met him and in person, he was nice enough. We had a decent back and forth, decent discussion. But this is beyond just differing on politics. Like, he pals around with Jake Shields, who an avowed Holocaust denier, right? Now you're literally promoting Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. He's promoted Candace in the past. These people are not serious people. They're not intellectuals. They're grifters and lunatics. It's one or the other. I mean, maybe a combo. I don't know. But the bottom line is, and I actually, when I saw his original post, I put, by what standard is this the way to move forward? How are we judging that? In what world? And, I also sent you an article, a post from Brad Polumbo, Mark.
Yes, which I retweeted, I think, in comments.
Awesome. So I'm going to take this off. If you have the Brad Polumbo, do you have it, Persephone? I sent you 2 emails, Persephone.
So while you're dealing with Persephone, like number says, Dave is a serious contender to be the 2028 Libertarian presidential nominee.
I don't think he's ever going to want to be that. He won't. He gets far, far more traction and far more money doing what he does than he would as the Libertarian.
I agree with you. But if he is, let's just say he is, then they truly do deserve the moniker that Michael Medved applied to them about a decade ago when he called them losertarians. And we see why they lose every time. If she's going to post, is she going to post that, or should I go on to the next op-ed, which is about the Federal Reserve? Okay, so go ahead. I read this out because it's.
You're the reader. I'll read it. Okay, so Brad Polumbo says, and I would love to be able to interview Brad Polumbo. He's got some good stuff, even though I we differ on a lot of things. I like him, but what he says is Nick Fuentes won. He's mainstream now. The years-long effort, which I participated in, to gatekeep the anti-Semitic, hateful freaks out of the Republican Party and conservative movement failed. You can object to this and leave the Republican Party as I have, but to pretend that strict standards of decency or integrity still exist in the modern conservative movement is to delude yourself, and that is absolutely correct. There is no conservatives. You have right-wing
Let's make it clear what we think conservatism means from our capitalist perspective. What does conservatism mean?
Well, if you go back, and that's why they're on the right, the people who sat on the right side of the assembly during the French Revolution were those who wanted to preserve the old order. Those who were on the left, the Jacobins, the sans-culottes, I think the Girondins, they wanted to get rid of the old order, bring in the new order. That's where we get right and left from. At that time, there was also the big debate between Edmund Burke and Thomas Paine. Edmund Burke was advocating that you can't just overthrow the old order. You're going to have chaos. You're going to have a nightmare. Thomas Paine said, no, you can wipe all the traditions away and start anew. So the conservatives are those who want to conserve things. So when you get to America, you're thinking, what do you want to conserve? You want to conserve constitutional government, the family unit, Christianity.
Liberalism.
Yeah, kind of, but also, I mean, you could throw in Christianity as the dominant religion or Christian values, that, that sort of thing. These people are just hateful, lunatic jerks, right? MAGA, in large part, represents that, but they don't go to the extent that Nick Fuentes does. But Nick Fuentes is now the main guy, or at least one of them.
Yeah, and Christopher says that Fuentes has more viewers than anyone. Is that true?
I think so. He gets millions. I know that.
Millions of viewers, like on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. A guy like Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, they get millions of people following them, and a guy like Yaron Brook has 39,000 people subscribing to his station, and he's one of the most coherent out there when he's talking.
This is true, but here's the thing. I want to talk a little bit. It's a good segue to a topic. People in general, or a lot of people, this goes back to what you said, a few minutes ago. They don't want to put forth the cognitive effort to actually think about things. So you tune into Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens or Tucker or any conspiracy theorist, right? And they give you easy answers. It's a mass conspiracy theorist, and they give you the source. Look, just look into this, and this is what you got to believe. You don't actually have to fact check, evaluate, check the veracity of the source. How good has the source been in the past? You don't have to do any of that. You just accept what Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens says, and you sit there clapping your hands like you're a goddamn seal, right? And you tune into someone like Yaron Brook, and you actually have to evaluate, so they don't want to do that. But that gets, for me, to this show right here, right? Because sometimes in the comments we'll get criticized. I wish they wouldn't joke, the bickering, and it's a very tightrope to walk, right? If you want viewers, if you want to be able to get people to tune in, if you want to get people to hear your message, just sitting there and lecturing straight-faced is not likely to do it, right? It's just not. That's one. So we try to keep it fun and informative, make it not a boring hour. But the other part of it is, Mark, to be honest with why, I like to do this show with you. I don't do the Capitalist Corner like that because that's an interview show. Not that I never laugh.
You mean, you don't.
I mean, the Rational Egoist. Yeah, I'm sorry. But my personality is right here. This is me, right? This is who I am.
I can attest to having hung out with you multiple times.
So we come on here, and this is what we do. Where I think we give smart analysis. We're willing to take criticism and argue, but we try to make it fun because you have to get people to tune in. And these people, your Nick Fuentes, he's got millions of viewers.
Yeah, but there's nothing fun about that guy.
Well, not for you and me because we have brain cells, but there's a lot of people that find that entertaining. They find that fun.
Well, I think what you said before, conspiracy theories are easy to grasp. It's the one size fits all umbrella way of looking at the world. So you don't have to do much thinking with it. And that appeals to people. And so it's sort of like, the sugar fix of media right now. And that's unfortunate. Rahazam says Jew hatred is popular, so he is popular. I am astounded at the level of Jew hatred I'm seeing out there today. I just saw a New York Post article online that an Israeli tourist who was wearing a yarmulke was randomly punched in the face by a guy in New York City and sent to the hospital. And his yarmulke was stolen off his head. This is in the place with the second highest population of Jews next to Israel. It is now, seems to me, as an outsider, and with a definitely anti-Semitic mayoral candidate about to be elected in, that this is a horrific state of affairs, right? That the second highest population of Jews in the world is in New York City, and they're about to elect an Islamicist, in a sense. He's a Muslim who will not denounce Hamas, who will not denounce From the River to the Sea, who will not denounce the narrative that Israel is a colonial imperialist power.
Yeah, that the aforementioned article said that a lot of his ideas are rooted in the anti-colonialism. He's the plight of the Palestinians, yada yada.
What really bugs me about that, Mike, is that one of the things that bugs me about that, one of the multiple things, but his dad teaches this shit at Columbia University. So it's not like he was an apple that fell far from the tree. He's not an independent thinker. An independent thinker would probably check the premises of his own parents. My mom was an armchair socialist, to be honest with you. I grew up, with her, ranting and raving about politics and being a fan of Ralph Nader. And I went completely against that in her lifetime while she was still alive. Just because, in a sense, she didn't impose those values on me. Those were just her values. So I had a sort of a chance to be a little bit independent and think about whether or not what she was saying was correct. And over time, I began to think about those things when it was appropriate for me to become politically active, and decided they weren't correct. But he hasn't. He's been indoctrinated from the time he was a kid. I mean, he said he started to think about politics at a young age. Why wouldn't he? His father is political. He's highly political. And to go against the gravitational pull of your father, of your father's influence, when he has that kind of stature, I think, in the life of this particular kid, he's a professor. That would be an incredibly independent thing for him to do. And so it just makes me despise him more, that he's not an intellectually independent guy, on top of just being evil. Mamdani, I have to say it correctly. Mamdani has ever visited his mom's country of origin, he'd have seen government stores sad and empty. It says a lot for a densely populated country.
I think he was actually born over there.
He was born in Uganda.
Oh, okay. There you go. I want to get to the Bill Gates thing too. I really hate the way my mustache grows.
I love your random observations.
I'm looking at myself and I see this, and I just wish I had a better mustache.
I feel you. It's all right. Testosterone. You'll go through puberty at some time, and it'll kick in.
Yeah. If it's going to lead to that monstrosity on your upper lip, you can keep it.
I look at this mustache. They have to trim it. Like every time I go in, every week I go in, they have to trim it because it's like a Stalin mustache. Like within a week, it's like taking up my entire face. It's disturbing.
Imagine what it does to us.
Look, I'm not even going to go there. So Bill Gates has apparently changed his mind with respect to climate change. Of course, at one time, he thought that it was an existential threat to the lives of human beings. He, like many other people, it's not just him, multiple people who were influencers are starting to come out on a different side now. Prediction of climate, this is from the Epoch Times, the science page. Prediction of climate catastrophe loses some of its strongest advocates. So he was one of many folks who thought this was an imminent existential threat. Now he's going back on it. He thinks it's disease and poverty. But go ahead. What did you want to address particularly about this? Because I think Alex Epstein has changed the narrative.
He's great on the issue. So I've tried to read up on the science, and there's a lot there, and I'm not even going to pretend to understand it. I mean, I know the basics, blah blah blah, but whatever. Julian Simon planted a seed in my head years and years ago, and when he demonstrated all the predictions that had been made by the doomsayers,
by Paul Ehrlich, especially Paul.
He's
Ehrlich.
One of them. Yeah, that he had the bet with.
Paul Ehrlich,
He did two bets with him, I think. But and he trained me to think in such a way as to not only look at the negative side of whatever environmental policies, but also on the positive side. So I'm always skeptical of the doomsayers because of their track record. That's the first thing.
And their track record is
it's not good.
Zero,
so I've been a skeptic, not in the sense of saying, no, the earth's not getting hotter, no, people aren't doing it, just skeptical about the overall damage. Then I read Alex Epstein's book, Fossil Future, and he made some very powerful arguments about how the benefits of fossil fuels far outweigh the costs.
Also, you should read Paul Dreesen's The Miracle Molecule, by the way. It's about CO2. Because one of the things that these folks have predicted was the desertification
No. I get it, but I'm in a flow, and then you come in with some random guy that you could have told us.
Welcome to my life as I'm talking and you talk about
it's totally different.
Okay.
One is I'm interrupting you. The other is you're interrupting me. You don't see the difference?
I do see the difference.
But anyway, and now you have, and plus my real life, I'm seeing that the world isn't falling apart. Some of these predictions were that it would already be falling apart by now. That's not happening. And now you have some of the greatest climate alarmists like Gates, he's not gone back all the way and said, no, it's not a problem. He's just saying the earth is going to be inhabitable for the foreseeable future, basically, which is contrary to what he had been saying before. So I thought it was a big story. I mean, I don't watch the news. I just read it. So I don't know how much they're covering it, but it seems like a pretty big deal to me. Of course, the thing, hold on one second. I just want to say that's interesting. When Bill Gates, though, says something that the anti-elites, let's say, of the world don't like, the elites. When he comes out with something like this, aha, look what he says now. It's no longer he's just an elite. And you can't really have it both ways.
Correct. And I think everybody out there should read Fossil Future and the Moral Case for Fossil Fuels. I think Alex is partly responsible for changing Bill Gates.
Was he there? Did you meet him?
No, he was at the conference, but I didn't. I've already met him before. We've had lunch and stuff together. He's a really cool guy. But I think he's contributed more than any other human being to changing the dialogue and the way that people look at environmentalism today. And for him to say we can't have this environmental policy where we look at unchanged Earth, uninfluenced Earth, with zero impact as a metric for whether or not environmental policies are right, but human thriving. And so he makes the point that regardless of which way the Earth goes and how weather and climate change, what we need is more energy in order to combat those changes or be able to make the Earth habitable. We are the ones who make it habitable. One of the things, Michael, that you probably noticed in that book that you read that I thought was a great argument was people have they sort of hold a premise that nature is a beneficent thing. It's almost like this living entity that you can be harmonized with, but nature is inherently hostile. If you don't believe that, folks, just watch a couple episodes of Naked and Afraid, where expert survivalists are dropped into places like Botswana, in Africa, naked with a couple of survival tools, and they're left there for 21 to 50 days. Watch what happens to them and how awful it is just to survive, just for the subsistence level living. And you will thank God for having the people in our society and the means in our society, meaning political freedom, so that these minds could be free to innovate the artificial stuff into our environment that enables us to make our environment livable, habitable, and even thrive within it. Michael, all these artifices that we see around us, the house, air conditioning, washing machines, all these things which require energy to build and support, they make life habitable. They shelter us from the natural dangers of the real world. I mean, another case in point, you get a fresh water source in the wild. It's not a dependable source of water. Everything that you get, even to fresh water sources, has to be processed, and there has to be a human labor and thought has to go into making that quote unquote fresh water drinkable. So looking at environmentalism from a human thriving point of view, I think is one of the things that it's one of our platforms as American Capitalist Party that we would definitely hold human thriving as the core value driving any environmental policy, which means about 99.9% of the environmental policy that's held now by the government and forced upon the people of the United States would be dropped. Probably not immediately, but over time. So, Michael, we have 1 minute. So should I give the capitalist thought for the day?
Yeah.
All right. And you're going to, oh, wait. Okay. Yeah. So, folks, we are faced with the spectacle of a avowed socialist, a morally consistent socialist being elected as mayor of New York City on November 4th. This looks like it's an inevitability. It may not be. Maybe there's a silent majority out there that will turn the tide. I certainly hope so. But it doesn't bode well as a barometer for the way in which the political mind of the United States is going. So it's our job, Michael, to frame capitalism in the way that Mamdani and his fellow socialists frame socialism, as a moral issue. Capitalism is a moral economic system. We say it's the most moral economic system out there because it protects individual rights to life and property and the pursuit of happiness. That those are noble ends. That the individual as an end unto himself is the most noble foundation upon which to lay a political system. That should be the principle, the moral principle upon which a society is based for its political expression, and that's what capitalism is. Michael, so do you have a question? The question for the day, is it a question for the day? Is that what we do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Every day. And we do it. Why? Because we want them to go to YouTube and answer the question in the comments section, because that helps to prime the algorithm.
Hey, please do answer this question, folks, on YouTube. Also, like, share, subscribe across all the.
I got a question. I'm going to tie a lot of things together here. What I want to know is this: what is the best pro-capitalism, pro-freedom movie you've ever seen? So what is the best pro-freedom movie you've seen? I think capitalism is encompassed in that, so we're just going to say freedom. Best pro-freedom movie you've seen.
Okay, so that is awesome. Can you answer that right now and hear your perspective real quick?
No, I don't want to answer it right now. I want them to go to the thing and answer it. I don't want to.
But no, so they can compare.
I don't want them to compare. I just want their answer. Okay. I actually, I go to the site and actually answer the comments.
Good. I'm glad you do.
Somebody has to. Did you share the show today?
No. I'll get to that, though. Thank you.
Why do I suck? She says I suck. I go to the thing. He doesn't, and I suck?
Because Lee knows that I'm going through a lot of stuff, and I can only do 4 things in the day.
That's not what it is. She's mad because I didn't watch Paddington.
Okay. So anyway, folks, like and subscribe before we take off today. I hope you like the show. We'll be here at the same bat time, same bat place tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. You have 23 hours to check your premises. Until that time, peace, folks.
Bye.